Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Wilton Report. And on this week's episode, we'll be talking about some of the most common mistakes sellers make that cost them a lot of money. If you're thinking of selling, or if you're a buyer who wants an advantage in the market, stay tuned for this week's episode. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Wilton Report. My name is Josh Wilton, and I'm the co-owner of Queenston Realty. I run the Wilton Group here at Queenston Realty. Top sales team in Princeton. We own Princeton Property Management Services, Princeton Home Connections, Princeton Abstract, Queenston Referral Associates. I'm sure I'm missing another initiative that we're working on. However, none of that matters today. Today, we're not even going to review inventory today. We're going to take a break from the market data, and we're going to talk strategy, because strategy does matter. Who you work with matters. I think I'm stealing that from Tom Ferry, but I believe that it's true. Today, we're going to be flipping and talking more about global mistakes sellers make, and it costs them a lot of money. It costs them time on market, stress, heartache. But at the end of the day, it does cost them dollars and cents at the closing table if they get to the closing table. So we're going to talk strategies, and I'm going to give you some case studies of things that we work on and things that we see, and we'll see where the episode goes from there. So the first thing I can tell you is that condition matters, right? So if you've lived in the house with kids, right? Let's say, because I have 3 kids, it kind of gets messy, all the little brown spots where their little feet kick the walls, where it kicks the doors, the fingers on the windows, just the stuff that accumulates over time, and you may miss it. You can't put your house in the market like that. It costs you thousands of dollars. So condition matters. So here's some data about staging. So if you don't know what staging is when a professional, who's basically a design professional, comes into your home and tells you how to get it ready for the market, period. And again, there's a few different numbers you can look at. In 2025, the National Association of Realtors stated that 19% of sellers agents reported staging and a 1 to 5% increase in the dollar value offered, meaning versus unstaged homes. I'd say 5% is probably low. The Real Estate Staging Association, perhaps self-interestedly, says 5 to 15% versus unstaged homes. And some exceptional cases, 85% of staged homes sold for 5 to 23% over the listing price. So again, in 2023, the market was pretty hot. But if you staged it in 2023, you were going to crush the market. You were going to far outpace the market. So, what is staging? Staging is perhaps getting your stuff out of the house, perhaps moving stuff around the house, definitely taking your photos down, definitely putting paint up, definitely getting personal photos, definitely getting your closets manicured. If you have an old carpet, you're going to replace it. If you have a dirty throw rug, you're going to throw it out, and the stager's going to bring in a new one. So basically, staging is when you're selling your house, anything you're not bringing with you, you're probably going to get rid of it before you put your house in the market. You're not going to do it after. So staging is emptying, staging is organizing, staging is cleaning, staging is simplifying. But at the end of the day, it's done by a third-party professional. We bring them in, my team does at any rate, to give the sellers an advantage in the market. Now, if you bring in a stager and you stage your house and the market's at $1 million, can you list it 23% more than the market? No, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about philosophy on pricing later. But again, as a seller, you have to invest in staging. You have to. So, we have a customer who's putting their house on the market in September, we're in September, and they lived in the house for 25 years. They haven't changed the carpets. Every carpet in the house is getting replaced and changed. The floors are getting sanded. The entire house is getting painted. Why? They've lived in it for 25 years, just like me, 3 kids, in-laws and parents in and out, family in and out, etc. The entire house is getting painted. Every carpet is getting changed. The floor is getting sanded and restained prior to it going on the market. Now, when you have 3 kids, you collect a lot of stuff. All that stuff had to leave the house. So this is, staging is it can be a big deal. It can be relatively minor if you've just changed the carpets, if you've done all that work. It could be just furniture. So move-in ready appeal. So let's talk about this. So I think a key in business is looking at the transaction from the eyes of your opponent. So if you're a seller, theoretically, although you should not look at it that way, your opponent is the buyer, meaning you want to get the most money from the buyer that you can and the best terms. So, move-in ready, if you're not move-in ready, you're ignoring the buyer's expectations. So let's talk about today's buyers in our market area in Princeton, West Windsor, Hopewell, Montgomery, Plainsboro, South Brunswick, the whole thing. So I just had a buyer consultation yesterday morning at 9 o'clock. If you don't know what that is when we sit down with every single buyer that we worked with and we go about an hour through process, pricing, etc. A lot of our buyers are dinks, dual income, no kids, or dual income little kids. So, they have dual income people, meaning they don't have a lot of time. It's not like somebody's home during the day that can paint the room. Generally speaking, in our market, both parents work, right? Obviously, in Princeton specific, there's a fair number of professors looking for homes. A lot of the people that are looking are what I would call white collar. They're more comfortable with an Excel sheet than they are with a paintbrush. So think about that. If that's who's looking at your product, shouldn't your product be reflective of what they want? Paint your house, clean it, replace the carpets, all that other stuff, right? So when you look at it from the eyes of the customer, if your house doesn't meet what they're looking for, you're going to make less money than the ones that have taken the time to prep it. And again, we're going to do case studies at the end, so make sure you stay till the end of today's broadcast. So again, another thing too is pre-inspection. If you're a dual income family, people aren't home, and let's say you have kids, and your weekends are soccer and lacrosse and football and high school and band and all that stuff that I literally just came out of because my youngest just graduated high school. It's a lot. It's a lot. So one of the things we always recommend to a seller, I always recommend to a seller, is inspect your house before you put it on the market. Why would you do that? Because the number one reason deals fall apart are inspection items. So as a seller, you have the choice. You don't have to wait for the buyer to do the inspection. You can do it, put it online, let the buyer have it before they make their bid. And then the house is subject to the inspection, right? It just takes the emotional component of the transaction and lowers it because the buyer knows that you're operating in good faith. They see the report, they see the disclosure, everything's filled out, the bid comes in, it's done according to the inspection. So again, as a seller, if you know going into a transaction that the highest probability of your transaction falling apart is an inspection, why would you leave it up to the buyer? I wouldn't. I would do the inspection. Any relocation executive that we move, right, when their house goes on the market, it gets pre-inspected because the relocation company doesn't want to deal with it. And the buyer buys that house subject to the report. You as the consumer have the same opportunity. A lot of realtors don't recommend it. I don't particularly know why. I think you should. I also think as a seller, put a home warranty on your house. Doesn't cost you anything till you close, but God forbid something breaks during the term of the listing, you're covered. Just so you know, right? Home warranties are great. And by the way, things always break. So another mistake sellers make, and this unfortunately is a big one, is not having the right real estate attorney. So you don't want to have an attorney that doesn't practice real estate full time. Contracts have rights and obligations, right? So contracts are bilateral. Once you're out of the attorney review phase, which is non-binding, once you're out of review, it's binding. The buyer has to put money in escrow. You're party to the escrow. They're party to the escrow. The buyer, if you didn't do a pre-inspection, is going to do an inspection. You're not done, right? You are not done. So having the right real estate attorney, I cannot tell you the importance of this. We really only recommend 3, and there's a lot of attorneys in the Mercer, Somerset, Middlesex County area. They're all full-time. They all specialize in real estate. The only reason they're out of the office is if they're at a closing. Like, you don't want somebody who's in court for 3 weeks. You don't want somebody who does divorce. You don't want somebody who doesn't do anything but real estate. It's the same analogy, right? Like, why would you go to a doctor for your hip if they specialize in feet? You don't want to do that. In the real estate space, you want to have an attorney. And again, we have a case right now where 2 attorneys, never heard of either one of them. They're duking it out over a pretty sizable deposit. Buyer says the deal's dead. Seller's attorney says it's not, right? Now it's, as I say, it's up to the attorneys. They have to figure it out. So I think it could have been avoided with better stewardship of the attorneys in the beginning of the transaction. Price. So a lot of times a seller will go with an agent that says, I can get you $2 million for your house. Excuse me, with hiccups. And the seller goes, oh my God. Wilton said I can only get 1.3. And then they go with the $2 million person. So let's talk about price. And I didn't make up the following model. My buddy Andrew in Baltimore, Maryland did, but I think it's the most easy way for a seller to understand price. There's 3 pricing models that you can think of and choose from. One is aspirational pricing. So aspirational pricing means, it's a celebrity house. It's a super unique house. It's one of a kind, hard to quantify in terms of price, hard to quantify in terms of assessment, price per square foot, lot size, the 9 things that I always say that determine price. The math doesn't really apply to it, right? You can look at it, deduce the best number, and put an aspirational price on it because you know that it's a very unique buyer. It's usually a super high-end house that's just like nothing else like it in the world. So that's aspirational pricing. The second one is market pricing. So market pricing is like this. House is worth $1 million. You put it on for $1 million. You get maybe 1, maybe 2 offers if you're lucky, based on current market conditions. And again, they do a home inspection because you didn't pre-inspect, you didn't stage, they're having second thoughts. The deal falls apart. You're not left with any backup offers because you put it at the market price. The other concept that we recommend is called party pricing, where basically if it's worth $1.2 million, you put it on, right, at 1,099. And you let the market drive it up because the market always finds its own level without fail. Without fail. So you have a choice as a seller. Do you want to sit aspirational pricing? Do you want to deal with one buyer who's then got control over you? Because if there's not multiple offers, the seller's not in control, in my opinion, the buyer is. Or aspiration or party pricing where, right, you manipulate the market, let it bid up, okay? And then you have multiple offers to choose from. And you may not even choose the highest offer. You may choose one with the best terms. So if you're deciding your broker on price, you're a fool. It's 2025. You can go on ChatGPT and figure it out. But price is a big one. You don't want to just be seduced by the highest price. You want to be seduced by the best overall strategy to get what you want. So let's talk about case study 1. So if you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I apologize because there's a really cool spreadsheet for every one of our customers, by the way. When we do a pricing model, this is what we make every single time. So when we do a bid, we make one. When we do listing, we make one. They're unique to our company, especially Queenston and my team. Myself and Ingle have designed them. They work. She's the number 1 listing agent. I'm the number 1 buyer's agent. We know what we're doing. So this is actual case study of a house I went on a listing presentation for. And the seller was definitely looking to be told it was ready to be put on the market. He wanted it on the market early September. Okay, here's the issue. That particular house had movie chairs, literally movie chairs in the family room. So I said, hey, we should move them downstairs. If you have a 90-inch TV, you can make a cool movie theater staging. Was a little concerned about the effort that would take. They had very big Gothic furniture in the living room. Beautiful, but unique. 99% of the people coming through the house wouldn't understand what it was. Again, didn't have that curb appeal where people are going to come in. You're better off with an IKEA couch than the super expensive furniture. They didn't want to take that to their new place before they put it on the market. Didn't want to paint, didn't want to do this, didn't want to do that. So when you look at it, right, Zillow said it's worth 155, Redfin 156, Realtor 1505, Homes.com 147 to 1533. So again, All of these things are hedging their bets. I said, look, you have to stage it. You have to take some of the furniture out. We're going to bring some furniture in. We're going to move some furniture around. We're definitely going to clean it. All of those things. We're going to skinny it down, right? And I'm going to tell you, you should put it on the market at 1399. Literally, Zillow says 15. I said 1399. So what did he do? He went with a realtor from out of the area, who put it on at a pretty high number. And I texted him today and I said, hey, how's it going? Did you get any offers? Not yet. Now, what he did do, right? He said, I'm going to allocate 2.5% for the buyer's agent, which is great. But being in the 1.5s is preventing them from coming in the door. People are motivated by deals, especially in the outer markets. This is in Hopewell. I'm not giving you the address because it's an active listing. So, in the outer markets, in a market that's shifting a little bit, right, which it is, you don't want to be the highest priced house. You want to be the lowest priced house. So we can watch that. I'll let you know how it goes. The other thing too, when, he put it on the market, the average for the price per square foot for the solds was $312, right? And the average house was 4,000 square feet. His house is $4,699. He's not going to get the $312. He's going to get a lesser number, meaning the law of linear regression, which is a math theory, says the bigger the house, the smaller the price per square foot. I explained that to him. I showed him the math. He wanted that, right? 312. He wanted that 330, 340 number. He's not going to get it, to be clear. His assessment is $937,000, right? And you can see things in that market are selling at a 1.54 multiple of the assessment. So again, he priced it where he's at a 1.6 multiple of the assessment. So again, price matters. You can't fool the market. I don't want to say you can fool the buyer, but if you stage it, price it low, create incentive to make an offer or multiple offers, you're going to drive the price back up. But again, this is one to watch. When it closes, I'll let you know. Case study 2. So this is one of our listings. It's listed. We're going to put it on the market in about 2 weeks, actually. The stager goes in on the 8th to bring in furniture. So again, you can see that in the blue lines where we projected it to sell, we said it's going to sell in the 1.3s to 1.4s. Now, this particular seller spent about $50,000 on staging. It's the same person, carpets, floors, massive amount of emptying, massive amount of moving stuff out, had to fix the deck, had to fix the outside, had to mulch, did a lot of work, did a lot of deferred maintenance, hadn't updated his house. And it was a great house, it's a beautiful house, but just hadn't updated, just lived in it with their kids and they were happy. Now it's time to sell. Today's buyer, dual income, and they're dual income, by the way. So they're doing all this deferred maintenance to get it ready to sell. And the funny part is when they put it on the market, inevitably everybody says, myself included, when I sell property, wow, it looks really good. Why am I selling it? Right? So in this particular case, we said you're going to sell between 1.34 and 1.4, right? We're recommending putting it on the market at 1.299. And he's going to listen. He's going to do it. So the house is going to be mint, immaculate, new carpets, wood floors, everything's painted. We're bringing in new lights in the kitchen, new lights in the bathroom, just stuff that's old had to go. $50,000 being spent, right? And again, he's pricing it below the market to drive up the price to be in control of the bidding. So again, it depends on you as a seller, which way do you want to go? Case study 3, this is an actual house that we brought to market, 33 Duffield. You can check it out. We brought it on at $1,069,000, just so you know, just under 1.1. Why did we bring it on at $1,069,000 when you can look at the numbers? And I said, look, you're going to sell solidly in the 1.2s. It's just where you're going to sell to Cape Cod. Cape Cod's trade usually at an average of about $600 to $612 a square foot. And I said $600 a square foot is 122. They staged it, they painted it, they emptied it, they did the floors. We brought in furniture. It was some really interesting color patterns in that house, some bright yellows and bright reds. Made it super neutral, just, creams and whites and stuff like that. We did the floors, did a lot of work. She spent about $30,000. We put it on at $1,069,000. There was 10 offers. She got, I think, $1,240,000, just kind of what we said she'd get for that particular house. So again, stylistically as a seller, do you want multiple offers and be in control? Do you want to price it at the market? and have a very delicate negotiation with that buyer. And if you lose that buyer, you're stuck. You don't have any backup. Or you want to have an aspirational price and you're just going to kind of sit and wait, right? And in a shifty market, if the market's moving away from you, you're going to wait a while. Do your homework on the lot, especially Princeton, West Windsor, Berrien City, Montgomery, the older neighborhoods, Montgomery, Belmead, et cetera, et cetera. So what do I mean by this? Sometimes the lot is worth more than the house is. So one of the things you as a seller want a broker to figure out is what can be done with the lot. Can you knock it down? If so, how big can you rebuild, right? So these are all things that you want to do. Here's a case study of a house we sold to a buyer. We figured out what you could do with the lot prior. And again, I think I shared this even last week or the week before. It came on at 1,400 square feet. It was a 1950s Cape. Everything was from the 50s, right? Painted stage, floors, really nice, furniture. It looked cute, but it was old on the inside. But we figured out you could build pre-bid 2,830 square feet. So as a seller, you want to have this in your hip pocket. You want to go to the town. Well, you would go to the town. We would talk to an architect. We would do the math. We would validate the math. And then you can say, hey, look, it's 1,400 square feet, but build a house up to 2,830, including the garage, not including the garage, ADU, whatever the combination may be. Because in Berrien City, in certain parts of Montgomery, certain parts of Hopewell, definitely in Princeton, the dirt is worth more than the house. If you buy the lot, if you buy the house, knock it down. You buy the house for $1 million, knock the house down, you can probably sell the lot for $1 million. The house becomes irrelevant sometimes. So doing your homework on the lot is really important before you put your house on the market. You don't want to give anything away to the market that you're not prepared of. And again, commissions, right? So commissions have always been negotiable. In last year, buyer's agents have to sign a contract with their buyer so the buyer has clarity as to what they're doing. It's interesting, the buyer consultation we did yesterday, he was working with a buyer's agent, kind of thought they were a little like 80s and 90s type of person. We did the modeling, we did the math, we did the process. And he goes, wow, I've never seen anything like this. And he said, and I said, look, you have to sign a buyer contract with us. It's the law. And he goes, I've been seeing houses with another agent, didn't make me sign it. I said, well, that's not my problem. So as the seller, right, understand this. There's 3 contracts you're going to be party to. The listing agreement with your listing agent, right? The New Jersey sales contract, which is the contract the buyer is going to present to you, the buyer's agent, and your agent will show you. And third, that you're kind of party to is the commission agreement that the buyer's agent signed with the buyer. So if you're coming into this, I'm not paying a buyer's agent commission, great. But if the offer comes in $60,000 higher than the next offer, right, and says you're paying the commission, you can negotiate it. But again, do you want to not do the deal because you got a better offer? Or you only have one offer and the buyer's agent says you're paying my commission. So again, you don't have to come into with the mindset, I'm definitely going to pay it, but I'd say it's part of the conversation, right? It's part of the conversation. So don't be dogmatic about commissions. If, you have a great deal and you're going to pay commission, great. If not, you want to negotiate it, great. But if you want to lose a deal because you don't want to pay somebody a commission, great. You're not going to sell that house to that buyer. So commissions are a part of the conversation that you're going to have in today's market. I think it's kind of cool because I think it's just people understand it better than they did even a few years ago. So those are some big things. And, they do add up, and to the tune of like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars at the closing table, sellers can cost themselves if they don't plan ahead. If you're thinking of selling in the spring of 2026, you should call us now. My cell, just so you have it, is 609-773-8054. You don't want to rush this. Painters are not busy over the winter. Carpet guys are not busy over the winter. The floor guys are not as busy over the winter. It's a good time to do the prep work for your house for the spring market. So that's today's episode of the Wilton Report. I hope you found the information helpful. If you'd like to have a analysis of your house, which we do for every single customer, buy or sell or rent or landlord, just shoot me a text and let me know. See you guys soon.